Howdy, peeps. Your friendly neighborhood monomachus here speaking to you. Beautiful Sunday morning. Gotta work. There you go. Anyway, I want to talk about my thoughts on the recent series of interviews that I did with Mrs. Shepard. To say that I'm disappointed would be accurate in a sense. Or at least I was at the beginning of the interviews. Gail volunteered to, at my request, by the way, to tell her story. And one of the reasons I thought would be this would offer her an extra level of protection. Kuluri. I hope that's the case. Maybe not. However, the story needed to be told. Not because I'm into yellow journalism or it's salacious or anything like that. Not at all. But because we need to stop glorifying our bishops. We need to stop sweeping things under the rug. We need to point out corruption where it exists. And we also need to pray for each other. Now, obviously, these interviews did not make Metropolitan Philip look good. I don't want to discuss him per se. He may very well be a saint right now in the church, and I mean that. And I know this is shocking. Well, go read the book of Kings and read about King David. And read about King Solomon. Read between the lines. You know, there's something to be said there. Some wise man once said, when you die and if you go to heaven, you'll be surprised at who's there. You'll also be surprised at who isn't there. I don't even want to think about me. I think I'm going to burst the gates of hell wide open. I don't know. God, Lord have mercy. Anyway, so why did this story need to be told? Well, because we need to expose corruption. The church tells us a way to do so. Okay, there are steps. And they're very loving and merciful. You just don't go around proclaiming that Bishop X or Senior Warden Y is a thief, an embezzler, a drunkard, whatever. You don't do it that way and broadcast it. You go privately. And then, if necessary, you go with 2 or 3 witnesses. And then, if necessary, and this is a regrettable step, then and only then do you go to the church. In other words, publicly. And even that may mean just go to the bishop, the local bishop. Well, what if he is the bishop? Well, then I guess you go to the presbytery or whatever. Regardless, there are procedures, there are protocols. And Gail went through those protocols. Okay, that's the thing we've got to keep in mind, folks. Nor did Gail want to bring down a bishop or force him to resign. She just made some, she came up with the evidence and asked Metropolitan Philip to do the right thing as she saw it. If she's wrong, if this was a tactical error or a prudential error that she shouldn't have thought, then that's arguable and we can entertain that. And she could have been disciplined through the right channels of the church. Instead, she was not. And hence, I felt the need to tell her story. Okay. So, this was not done for salacious reasons. Having said that, I apologize if I scandalized anyone in telling this story. Caveats aside, it's clear that her story has withstood closer scrutiny. Many assertions were made. I verified as many of them as I could for myself because I wouldn't have gone forward with this story otherwise. Okay? And she didn't want to hold herself up for unnecessary scrutiny or worse, ridicule, or even worse than that, danger, personal bodily harm, as well as vandalism, which is a type of terrorism. Think about it, folks. It really is. Anyway, I saw the evidence for myself. A circumstantial case could be made that somebody who was angry with her was doing these things. We don't know who. We have ideas, but we can't prove it. A circumstantial case can be made that there were rogue elements within that parish that were very disheartened to see her show up at their church. And as I said earlier, her priest at the time came forward and spoke on this blog. And he spoke glowingly about that parish, and God bless him for doing so. I'm sure it's a lovely parish. Someday I hope to visit. Okay. But he did not contradict her story. He said nothing about it. And he had a chance to do so because he was named in the story itself as one of her protectors, or somebody who was concerned about her safety at the very least. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's over. It's settled. And to the extent that we know anything about it, the particulars, it's a pretty much a done deal. Okay? But let's not lose sight of the broader picture. And I'm not talking about just old world pathologies and the necessity to cut our ties to the old world pathologies, because thank you very much, we've got our own new world pathologies here that we have to deal with. Gail loves her church. She loves the church. She particularly loves the Antiochian jurisdiction. I mean, if you've just read her writings over the past year, how she's praised the Antiochian jurisdiction, and how she even came up with this audacious claim that eventually the GOA may have to be folded into the Antiochian jurisdiction. Which, I kind of like, well, that's interesting. I'll entertain it, Gail, but I don't think it's a reality. Well, I'll tell you what, after this latest 44th biennial Clergy Laity Conference, boy, I think all bets are off. That's not the point, though. Gail loves the Antiochian jurisdiction, as do many former evangelicals and who've converted from evangelicalism to orthodoxy. That has become the go-to place for them, for the most part. Okay, the bigger picture, however, is orthodoxy in America, and I think we've lost sight of that. Here in America, we are planted by God's providence. The immigrant experience is important. It's part of it. It's part of our history. I'm the son of an immigrant. I'm the grandson of immigrants, and I'm the great-grandson of an immigrant, believe it or not, who I guess not totally an immigrant because he went back to Greece, but he took out American citizenship, which shocked us when we found out. Anyway, it is what it is, and it is part of what we are, and that's okay. We should love the old world. We should love our patriarchates. We should love our mothers, whether you're a Serbian or a Bulgar or a Greek or a Russian or a Ukrainian or an Arab, whatever. You need to love your mother. There's an old Arabic saying, he who denies his past denies himself. Okay. There's another Arabic saying that the man who tells the truth must have one foot in the saddle. So think about these things, folks. I'm going to tell some truths. We've told some truths. They've been kind of unpleasant in some ways. But we're never going to marry the man we love if we don't cut our mother's apron strings. Or marry the woman we love if we don't cut our mother's apron strings. That's not healthy. So, I think the bigger picture is this. Why can't we have an American church, an American Orthodox church? There are over 50 bishops in America right now, not only within the lower 48, but 49. Okay? Alaska too. I said in an earlier thread that that's more than enough. We can have an autocephalous church. I'm in Oklahoma. There are 12 Orthodox churches right in there in Oklahoma, from what if memory serves. Put a bishop in Oklahoma City. We can support a bishop. There are 69 Orthodox churches in Texas. Well, put a bishop in Dallas. There is one already. Houston, Austin, El Paso. It's a big state. Okay. Now, some people will say, well, bishops are expensive. And they have entourages that they travel with, and they have to have chanceries and all that. Well, so I did a little digging. Do you know how many bishops are in the in the Ecumenical Patriarchate? 125. I believe 53 are titular, the rest are auxiliary, or 53 are diocesan ordinaries. In other words, they're real bishops with real dioceses. The others are titular. They're bishops in name only, bishops of extinct dioceses. It's not the point. 125. Now, how many people are in the Patriarchate of Constantinople? And this is according to their website. You can check it out if you want. Don't take my word for it. According to their website, there's 5 million people in the Patriarchate of Constantinople. 3.5 million in Greece, 1.5 million in the diaspora. Now, the diaspora numbers, I believe, are bogus. I really do believe that. Anybody who believes there's 1 million people in the GOA, for instance, the biggest of the diaspora, is deluding themselves. It's just not true. That's not the point, however. Let's just go with it. Let's just go with the official numbers. I did a little bit of math. If there are 125 bishops and there are 5 million people, that comes to roughly one bishop for every 40,000 people. Okay. Now, if you just take the diocesan ordinaries, the ones who are real bishops of real dioceses, the numbers are even greater. It's not the point. The point is the Ecumenical Patriarchate can support 125 bishops from a population base of 5 million, which again is bogus. So are you telling me that we in America could not support 50 bishops? No. You can't convince me of that. Okay? I would have to be, you and I would have to be willfully ignorant, studiously ignorant, to look the other way and say, oh yeah, we can't have 4 bishops in Texas, 1 in Oklahoma, 6 in New York State, 4 in California, 1 in Seattle, 1 in St. Louis, 1 in Kansas City, 1 in Toledo, 1 in Wichita, which we already have 1 in Toledo and 1 in Wichita. We can, and we should. And we need to start thinking outside the box and stop believing the propaganda that's constantly spewed out as to why we cannot be independent, why we don't have enough bishops, why we're not mature. You know what? We're probably not mature enough. But you know what? We'll become mature. We'll have to. What did Jesus say to his disciples? He goes, the time will come when you will be brought before the synagogue, and people will think they're doing God's will when they curse you and stone you. And I'm paraphrasing here. Okay? But don't worry, because the Holy Spirit will give you the words to say at the time. Keep that in mind. All of the MDivs in the world, all the theological degrees in the world, they're not going to matter. They're not going to matter at all. And that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. Hey, son, how's it going?
How are you?
Alrighty. My son came home for the weekend. If we walk in faith, we will be given the words to say. We will do the right actions. Remember that. Okay, so a challenge. Offline, Gail sent me an email, or online, I guess. Think about it, George, a challenge. We have an Episcopal Assembly here in the United States of America, EAUSA. Why don't they focus on one topic, just one, and on a certain date come up with a protocol for that one issue? She suggested the reception of converts, baptism or chrismation. She and I have different views on this, by the way. She takes the more maximalist, more rigorous approach. Regardless, it's a challenge. Let's say that on September 1st, 2020, the indiction of the church, that the Episcopal Assembly comes up with a rigid protocol which says that from this point forward, all converts will be received by this method, regardless of jurisdiction, regardless of diocese, regardless of anything at all. If you are in the contiguous United States of America, in Alaska and Hawaii, and you want to become a member of any Orthodox parish in any Orthodox jurisdiction, you will be received in this manner. End of story. Whatever that manner is. And then they can go on to something else. Let's say all convert couples will have to be received, will have to have their marriages sacramentally celebrated or solidified. That's something else, okay? Could be anything else. How about this? That all ethnically based parishes and ethnically originated parishes will have their liturgical rubrics honored and left unmolested by whoever is the bishop of the particular territory for a period not less than 30 years. In other words, if you're used to doing the liturgy in English or Arabic or Slavonic or a mixture of that, or you have the litany of the catechumens, or you don't have the litany of the catechumens, or you do marriages or weddings in the middle of the liturgy, you can do that. That's not a, this will take a great burden off of people's minds. Oh, I'm worried about this Ukrainian bishop who's coming. He's gonna make us burn the Russian flag. Or I'm worried about this Greek bishop. He's going to try to Hellenize us. Or this Russian bishop. He's going to make us. He's going to Russify us. Or this American convert bishop who's going to make us shoot fireworks on the 4th of July. Okay, it cuts both ways. So we should think about the future, folks. And I'm hoping that this series of interviews that I did with Gail will make us think about the future and make us think about what can't happen again. And that is that our people, individuals, especially if they're women, okay, should be left unmolested. If they point out a scandal or they see some corruption, and if they do it privately, and they do not hold up somebody to scorn and ridicule. We can't have that anymore, folks. The church has protocols to deal with errant parishioners, or parishioners who step out of line, or parishioners who you think step out of line. Okay? Bishops need to uphold those protocols. Gail, for her part, did. She didn't demand anything. She certainly did not demand or request a change in American ecclesiology. Not at all. So, I'm just going to leave it at that. We need to think about the future. If nothing else, Gail's story and the stories of other people like her, because she wasn't the only one who experienced molestation and terrorism. There were others. Okay? We need to learn from that. And we don't ever need to act in this manner again. So, I'm going to finish it here. It's been a little long. And I do ask for forgiveness. At the same time, I also say Pax Vobiscum. Let's try to love one another. And adios.